you delivered, I think this is back, I don't know what year we're talking about now, but you delivered the first box, the first chips, to Elon Musk, who was one of the founders of OpenAI, only a couple of years ago. What happened?
Well, I delivered to him the first AI supercomputer the world ever made. It took us 5 years to make it. It's called a DGX. It's everywhere in the world today. People think that we build GPUs, but this GPU is 70 pounds, 35,000 parts. Out of the 35,000, 8 of those chips come from TSMC. It is so heavy you need robots to build it. It's like an electric car. It consumes 10,000 amps. We sell it for $250,000. It's a supercomputer, so it takes another supercomputer to test it. This is a computer first of its kind. And we started working on it in 2012. It took me 5 years to build it. At first, I built it for our own engineers. And I spoke about it at one of our conferences, and Elon saw it. He goes, I want one of those. And he said, he told me about OpenAI. I also knew Peter Beal, who was a Berkeley professor. He was one of the early people at OpenAI. And Ilya Sutskever, I met him during the AlexNet days 5 years earlier.
He's involved in all the drama that we've been reading about.
And so anyways, I delivered the world's first AI supercomputer to OpenAI on that day. And people took pictures of it, and it's on the internet somewhere. Yeah.
When you did that, and you said you didn't do it originally for him, what was it, though, that you saw at that point, 5 years before you even delivered it?
In 2012, when this all first happened, AlexNet did something remarkable. Here's a neural network. It's a software program where the way you programmed it was to show it the results that you wanted, which is the backwards of most programs up to then. You know, programs up to then were engineers would sit down and you would write software, and then you would test it to see if it produced the outputs you wanted. But here, you showed it examples, and you taught it what outputs you wanted, what outputs to expect. And so when we first saw the results of it, AlexNet, the results were so spectacular that Alex Krizhevsky and Ilya Sutskever and, of course, Geoffrey Hinton, they achieved results of computer vision recognition that no computer vision expert was able to achieve before that. And so the first observation is how remarkable it was. But then we were fortunate to have taken a step back and asked ourselves, what is the implication of this to the future of computers? And we drew the right conclusions that this was going to change the way computing was going to be done. This was going to change the way software was going to be written, and this was going to change the type of applications we could write.
Was there any part of you that was scared when all of this happened? You just mentioned 2 names, George Hinton as well. You also mentioned Ilya, and those are names, by the way, if you've been following what's happening. They have been very outspoken about the dangers of AI. Very well, I want to get into actually what you think happened at OpenAI in the past couple of weeks. But it may very well be that there may have been a new step change in terms of what this technology was. But was there ever part of you, when you're seeing this all happen, say, oh my goodness, not only are we on the cusp of a revolution in a great way, but that this is dangerous?
Well, no, I would say 12 years ago, nobody expected the results we would get. And I think anybody who would have said so back then would have over-exaggerated, our understanding of the rate of progress. There's no question that the rate of progress is high, and what we realize today is that of course what we can do today with these models and intelligence are related but not the same. We're very good at perception today, and we're very good at those one-shot knee-jerk reaction. I recognize that that's a dog. I can finish that sentence. But there's a whole bunch of things that we can't do yet. We can't reason yet. This multi-step reasoning that humans are very good at. AI can't do that.
And how far away do you think we are from that?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think that just about everybody's working on it. And all the researchers are working on it. Everybody's working on it. We're trying to figure out, how do you take a goal, break it down into a whole bunch of steps, and create a decision tree, and then walk down the decision tree to figure out, which one of the paths leads to the most optimal answer. This is how we reason through things, how we iterate through a problem. Today, as you know.
But you're making bets now in terms of technology that you have to build and investments you have to make.
Yeah.
On where we're going to be 5 years from now.
10 years from
10 years from now.
Yeah, right.
So, people talk about AGI.
Yeah.
Right? Artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
Do you think in 10 years from now we are there?
Depending on how you define it, I think the answer is yes. And so the question is, what is AGI? If we define AGI as a piece of software, a computer that can take a whole bunch of tests, and these tests reflect basic intelligence, and by completing those tests, deliver results that are fairly competitive to a normal human. I would say that within the next 5 years, you're going to see obviously AIs that can achieve those tests.
And
now,
design the chips that you're making right now?
Yeah.
Will you need to have the same staff that designs them?
In fact, none of our chips are possible today without AI. Literally, the H100s we're shipping today was designed with the assistance of a whole lot of AIs. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to cram so many transistors on a chip or optimize the algorithms to the level that we have. And software can't be written without AI. Chips can't be designed without AI. Nothing's possible.
We started by talking about OpenAI, and everybody's focused on that. What did you make of what happened? The ousting of Sam Altman, the return of Sam Altman, all of it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm happy that they're settled, and I hope they're settled. It's a really great team. And they're doing important work, and they've achieved great results. And I'm just really happy that they're settled. It also brings to mind the importance of corporate governance. I mean, there's NVIDIA's here 30 years after our founding. We've gone through a lot of adversity. If we didn't set up our company properly, who knows what would have done. And so I think when you're architecting an industry, you want to apply some of that wisdom to architecting a company, and so I'm really proud of NVIDIA's corporate governance, by the way, and if not for the architecture that we established when I was 29 years old, it'd be kind of.
You're a for-profit company, though. What's so interesting, I think, about this sort of dynamic is that is a firm that is effectively operated from a governance perspective as a not-for-profit. And one of the reasons that they set it up that way was because they did think it was dangerous. Elon Musk said it was dangerous at the beginning. Ilya said it was dangerous. And so the question is, in the sort of multitude of these different businesses that are in AI, do you think you do need these not-for-profits? Do you think that the incentive system is just fundamentally off and should be a for-profit? I mean, a lot of people now think the capitalists have taken over.
Well, regulators are not-for-profit. And we should regulate these. First of all, just take a step back and think about what AI is. AI is an autonomous system. It's an autonomous system that's it's an autonomous information system. We have a lot of autonomous systems today. Self-driving cars in factories, within factories already exist. Robots are autonomous. Planes are autonomous. Autopilot, self-landing. All of those capabilities exist. We ought to make sure that we apply the first principles of autonomous systems in the same way. We have to design it properly, test it properly, stress test it properly, monitor it. There's inside-out safety. There's outside-in safety. The FAA, flight air traffic control, redundancy, diversity. There's a whole bunch of different systems that we have to put in place for autonomous systems. There's a lot of industries to learn from.
At the beginning of this, I mentioned there's sort of a frenemy situation going on with a lot of companies that use your chips. They're desperate for your chips. They want your GPUs, and at the same time, they're also trying to build their own, frankly. I'm curious, since you've seen it all, how you would stack rank the success of the various companies that are in this AI space. We have somebody from Google DeepMinds here today, their COO. I'm curious where you think OpenAI ranks in that. There's Inflection. Amazon is trying to play in the
I'm not going to rank my friends.
No, but you have a sense of, and part of the question
I'll
is...
admit it, I want to, but I'm not going to do it. No, I'm just kidding.
But there is a question about actually whether all of these things converge. Meaning that they all, that does this all become some kind of commoditized business?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have off-the-shelf AIs. And these off-the-shelf AIs are going to be really, really good at solving a lot of problems. But you're going to have companies in healthcare are going to have supervised, super tuned AIs that take these off-the-shelf AIs and make them super good at drug discovery or super good at chip design. Let me just use our company for example. The vast majority of our company's value is in the data and the intelligence and the know-how, the craft that's inside our company. And none of that data is out on the internet. You can't get an AI to go learn it. And so I've got to take a really smart AI, which is what we do. We build a smart AI, and then we teach it how to design chips. We teach it how to write software. You teach it how to do drug discovery. You'll teach it how to do radiology.
Let me ask you a geopolitical question. We're going to hear from the president of Taiwan just after this. And there is a big debate, as you know, about chip independence, the big investment that we're making in chips to manufacture here in the United States, whether we should be exporting certain types of chips to China. Where are we on the journey of being chip independent, if you will? And do you think that that is a worthy goal?
We are somewhere between a decade to 2 decades away from supply chain independence. As I mentioned earlier, our systems comes 35,000 parts, and 8 of them come from TSMC. And the supply chain, when you think through it...
And they're in Taiwan, of course.
Yeah, there are a lot in Taiwan. They're all over the world. But supply chain independence is going to be really challenging. Yeah. We should try it. We should endeavor it. I mean, we should absolutely go down the journey of it. But total independence of supply chain is not a real practical thing for a decade or two.
Okay. One of the other things that's happening, as you know so well, is that the U.S. government has effectively told you need to throttle the speed of the chips that you are exporting to China.
Yeah.
This is having an impact on the business itself. But I'm curious how you think about that also geopolitically as a business, the national security concerns. Jamie Dimon, we were talking earlier about, what companies you should do business with. Should you do business with people in China or not, given all of the concerns that people have?
Well, on first principles, we're a company that was built for business. And so we try to do business with everybody we can. On the other hand, our national security matters and our national competitiveness matters. Somewhere between that makes sense. And so our country, of course, wants our industry to on the one hand, be successful, lead the world, invent amazing technology, have technology independence on the one hand, and be the leader of the world in technology on the one hand. On the other hand, we need to make sure that we ensure national security. Our regulations provide for that. The most critical technology that we build, the leading edge of it is not made available to China. And so what we have to do, a new regulation just came out, one that came out a year ago, one just came out this year. And so we have to come up with new chips that comply with the regulation. And once we comply with the regulation, we'll go back to market and do the best.
But do you think the regulation is a good idea? Because I have heard you say that you think potentially by throttling these chips, we are just inspiring and creating competitors in places like China that you can't control.
That's what, look, there are always unintended consequences. Everything that we do in complicated systems, if we want to limit them from access to technology like NVIDIA's, maybe it doesn't really. They find a way to get it, or they find a way to inspire their local industry. There's some 50 companies that are being built in China that are going to go provide this technology. So it's a complicated thing. And so what can you do?
Well, you can make your own choices. But the other thing that's happened literally in the past a couple months now is Huawei came out with a new phone.
Yeah.
And it surprised everybody in terms of the chips in that phone. In terms of this being a 7-nanometer chip, there was a view that China was never going to get there. We had this sort of real opportunity ahead of them by many years. Were you surprised by that?
The rumors of it in the market has been around for a long time. And so were we surprised? I don't think so. I don't think anybody in the industry was really surprised. And is it possible to take something that said 16 nanometer and shrink it to 7? You know, these are just numbers. Is it really 7? Did they shrink it down to something that was sufficiently good that you can make a phone from? Yeah, I think so. And so I think there's no magic in these numbers, as you know. It's just 7, the number.
But the question is, what is our lead over them, do you think?
In semiconductors?
Yeah.
In semiconductors, call it a decade. You could decide, call it a decade. But could you take the decade-old technology and just squeeze the living daylights out of it until it produces something that's kind of like something from 5 years ago? Yeah, probably. And so I think there's a lot of clever engineers all over the world, and they're trying to get the most out of.
Let me ask you a different company
they have.
There's a company called ASML in the Netherlands that's basically responsible for every chip that everybody makes.
Yeah.
Some people might call them a monopoly. How powerful are they in all of this? And should we be worried about that power?
Well, a lot of people depend on them to build the instrument, and they do build very, very good instruments. And the technology is very complicated. It took a long time for them to build it. There's no reason why they don't want to provide it to the world. And so I'm not sure what the question is, but I'm not concerned. I didn't wake up this morning concerned about ASML. I think they're an excellent provider, and they're motivated to supply to us, and so I think everybody's incentives are aligned.
I want to ask you a management question because it's just fascinating, given the success of this company. You constantly say, even at this point in the ballgame, you say, I do everything I can not to go out of business. I do everything I can not to fail. That is like a mantra inside the company, even at this point. What is that about?
What is that about? I think when you build a company from the ground up and you experience real adversity and you really experience nearly going out of business several times, that feeling stays with you. I wake up every morning in some condition of concern, and I don't wake up proud and confident. I wake up worried and concerned about, and so it just depends on which side of the bed you get out on.
This is the Andy Grove, only the paranoid survive.
Well, I think paranoia needs therapy. I don't think people are trying to put me out of business. I probably know they're trying to, and so I think that's different. And so I live in this condition where partly desperate, partly aspirational. And
okay, well, let me ask you then about this. You said this to the New Yorker, and I found it fascinating. Again, goes to this idea of failure or worries about failure. But you said this, and this is like news. This is a selfish question. You said, I find that I think best when I'm under adversity, and then you said my heart rate actually goes down. When I'm under adversity, my heart rate goes up by a lot.
Well, let's see. Well, I think during adversity you're more focused, and when you're more focused, you perform better. And I like the last 5 minutes before something you're more focused, and so. I like to live in that state where we're about to perish and everything, and so I enjoy that condition and I do my best work in that condition, and I like going home and telling my wife I saved the company today, and maybe it wasn't true, but I like to think so. And so,
another question. We have a lot of business leaders and CEOs here, and I think they're going to be surprised to hear this. You have 40 direct reports at the company.
50 direct reports.
50 direct reports.
Yeah.
Most people say, I don't know if we have any consultants in the room, they'd say, you know what, half a dozen, maybe 10, that should be the limit. What's your philosophy or theory here?
Well, the people that report to the CEO should require the least amount of pampering. And so I don't think they need life advice. I don't think they need career guidance. They should be at the top of their game, incredibly good at their craft. And unless they need my personal help, they should require very little management. And so I think that the more direct reports the CEO has, the less layers are in the company.
Right.
And so it allows us to keep information fluid. It allows us to make sure that everyone is empowered by information. And our company, just performs better because everybody's aligned. Everybody's informed of what's going on.
I wanted to open up to questions in just a moment, so please do raise your hand so I can find you. But I want to ask you this. You did a podcast recently, and there were a lot of headlines about it. And you said during the podcast, if you could do it all over again, meaning like if you could start NVIDIA again,
yeah,
you wouldn't.
No.
What did you mean? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, you've done this amazing thing.
Yeah.
You're worth $40 billion personally.
Yeah. That wasn't what I meant. First of all, I think it would be disingenuous if I said that it wasn't, quote, worth it. I enjoy a lot of good things in life. I've got a great family. We built a great company. All of that is worth it. That wasn't what I meant. What I meant was, if people realized how hard something is, and if I would have realized how hard it was, how many times we're going to fail, how the original business plan had no hope of succeeding, that almost the early founders that we built the whole company with, we had to completely relearn just about everything we had to know. If I would have known all of the things that I had to know in order to be a CEO, everything that we had to solve in order to be where we are, that mountain of work, that mountain of challenges, that mountain of adversity and setback and some amount of humiliation and a lot of embarrassment, if you would have piled all of that on in 1993 on the table of a 29-year-old, I don't think I would have done it. I would have said, there's no way I would know all this. There's no way I could learn all this. There's no way we can overcome all this. There's no way, this is a game plan that's not going to work. And so that's what I meant. That I think the ignorance of entrepreneurs, this attitude and I try to keep that today, which is ask yourself, how hard could it be? You approach life with this attitude of, how hard could it be? If they could do it, I could do it. That attitude is completely helpful, but it's also completely wrong. It's very helpful because it gives you courage, but it's wrong because it is way harder than you think it is. And the amount of skill that is necessary, the amount of knowledge that's necessary, I think it's one of those teenager attitudes, and I think I try to keep that in the company, that teenage attitude. How hard can something be? It gives you courage. It gives you confidence.
Let's try to sneak in one question or two, if we could. I know Ron Conway had a question last time at a different moment. I don't know if he's still in the room. I felt like I should give him an opportunity, but I see Gary Lauder there. Hey, Gary.
So there are a lot of startups, and not non-startups, doing AI chips optimized for LLMs. Can you talk about, and they claim to be dramatically more effective and energy efficient than GPUs. Can you talk about what you're planning in these regards?
Yeah. First of all, this is one of the great observations that we made. We realized that deep learning and AI was not a chip problem. It's a reinvention of computing problem. Everything from how the computer works, how computer software works, the type of software that it was going to write, the way that we write it, the way we develop software today using AI, creating AI, that method of software is fundamentally different than the way we did it before. So every aspect of computing is changed. And in fact, one of the things that people don't realize is the vast majority of computing today is a retrieval model, meaning just all you have to do is ask yourself, what happens when you touch your phone? Some electrons go to a data center somewhere, retrieves a file, and brings it back to you. In the future, the vast majority of computing is going to be retrieval plus generation. And so the way that computing is done is fundamentally changed. Now, we observed that and realized that about a decade and a half ago. I think a lot of people are still trying to sort that out. It is the reason why, people say we're practically the only company doing it. It's probably because we're the only company that got it. And people are still trying to get it. You can't solve this new way of doing computing by just designing a chip. Every aspect of the computer has fundamentally changed. And so everything from networking to the switching to the way that the computers are designed to the chips itself, all of the software that sits on top of it and the methodology that pulls it all together, it's a big deal because it's a complete reinvention of the computer industry. And now we have $1 trillion worth of data centers in the world. All of that's going to get retooled. That's the amazing thing. We're in the beginning of a brand new generation of computing. It hasn't been reinvented in 60 years. This is why it's such a big deal. It's hard for people to wrap their head around it, but that was the great observation that we made. It includes a chip, but it's not about that chip.